welcome once again to Clinical Theurgy, episode 4. The party had a pretty good last session, didn't they?
Yeah, didn't we solve the case and some shit?
You did indeed solve the case.
Yeah.
And what was the case? Let's recap those watching.
So crazy mama went crazy and started stealing some children.
What made her crazy? She seemed perfectly normal.
Music's a little loud.
Yeah, I forget that in the second half it ramps up by like twofold.
Yeah, I just turned it down. I was like, I can't hear.
We killed Baru's wife.
What actually did make her crazy? Do we know? Is her eyes were all fucked up?
I don't know. Like, what happened? It seemed like what happened to the combat? Like, how did she pass her? Is she still alive?
We fed her to a ooze.
Oh, that's
A
right.
gelatinous cube.
Yeah, to a gelatinous cube.
Rushed her into a gelatinous cube. Get in.
What a way to go. That left you with a lot of unanswered questions. Did you get any of the questions you might have had answered?
I mean, we knew that she was the one taking the children, and she thought they were her children, but we know she wasn't like I don't know, like the head of whatever craziness is going on. There's something that they call the mother.
There's also some other larger force at work, because when we got one of the mites... No, we got one of the mites and we got someone at the ministry to talk to the mite.
They call it the mother. That's
didn't we fuck up some wizard? Because he looked in his mind and he's like fucked up a bit?
I mean, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Maybe he's in perfectly good working order.
The thing the mite was talking about, they called it the mother. Like, she, like, not saying the thing that thought she was a mom and looking for her kid, but like the mite called whatever weird thing the...
And how's that leaving everybody feeling?
Unsettled. Like, it was really troubling, I think, to Brianna, that just by conversing with this mite, that this wizard started going insane.
Well,
Not just conversing, yeah.
Yeah, he looked into his mind to, like, see the mother.
True.
So clearly seeing this person or thing is not good. It will fuck your eyes up, I think.
But apparently it's beautiful. So beautiful.
So
and that's what the sailors drowning to their death say about the siren songs.
Hell yeah.
So, all of you have had a few nights to rest and contemplate on things. After a mission like that and after the information gathered, you've been given a little bit of leave. They don't like to give people cases that have a significant amount of mental impact, one right after another. So you have a couple of days in between. And in those days, some of you seem to have some peculiar feelings. Elizabeth, as you rest in the evenings, you have images of little blue creatures walking around you, excited that you've joined them, excited that you feel that you finally, for the first time in your life, feel like somebody understands that it's okay to be frustrated with people. It's okay to want people to do better. That you finally feel understood and comprehended and validated in a way you haven't felt. And they all kind of converge on you, and you realize that everything is warm, everything is nice, and you are about to be dinner. And you wake up for the last few nights with this in your dreams.
Well, that's thoroughly creepy.
You thought these were gone, didn't you? It's been a long time since you had any of these weirdo dreams.
It's like, ah, shit, not again.
Moving away helped for a while, didn't it?
Did I actually move?
Are you still living with your parents?
I think so.
Okay, so the job then had kind of like helped you alleviate a lot of these issues. You kind of attribute it to your like not being busy enough or having your parents continue to kind of like, isolate you from doing a lot of the things you would have preferred to do. So getting your mind active seemed to have put these dreams at rest. But in the last few nights, they found you again. Different this time, but still always the same. Something bad happening to you at the end of every one.
That's not a great omen. Feel like I would just be kind of like, alright, just ignore it. It'll go away. It went away before. Just ignore it. Get back to work.
Unfortunately, you can't get back to work for a couple more days.
No!
Brianna, how are you feeling over the last couple of days after all of this has happened? You kind of said that this was a bit of a shock for you.
Well, I mean, so I hadn't really actually, seen a case like this as far as, kidnapping and then, the kids in the sewers and people acting crazy. It's very troubling to see, this kind of mental illness is what I'm thinking about is as mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would definitely probably be like writing, songs or things like that, trying to kind of get those feelings out on paper and however I can express myself.
Now, has this changed your sort of the sort of tone of your songs? Do you find that it's influencing the output of your music?
Not really. I mean, not yet, because so for me, the way that I imagine things working is that, there's songs that I'm working on, and then there are songs that I'm actually ready to play for everybody.
Okay.
So
Not becoming an emo bard.
I mean, maybe, but not right now. Like right now, I'm still in the sort of like the design stage of figuring out like how I'm going to sing these songs and how I'm going to share it with the world.
Okay. So you've kind of retreated into focusing on your music to try to keep your mind off of the nightmares you've seen.
Absolutely.
And Ghoulrun, how about you? Sticking to your religious studies?
Yeah, I think
become a cleric.
Yeah, don't make fun of me. I don't know. I think seeing all the kids made him kind of were upset and worried because he was an orphan himself, right? So it's like she was like purposely like orphaning these kids, kind of almost.
Yeah, nearly.
Wait, was one of the parents killed?
Kind of like
No,
she was kind of like trying to forcibly adopt them.
Yeah. So yeah, that wasn't sitting too well with him.
The idea of children being separated from their parents.
Yeah.
With no chance of ever being reunited, feeling kind of lost to who they belong to.
Yeah.
Did he think there was any chance that she would do anything bad to the children?
Did he ever think? I think he feared the worst when we were like in the sewers, right? But then when he saw them, they seemed okay, and then she wasn't really using like any crazy offensive spells or attacks. She was just kind of like crazy. It seemed it was like less worrying, but still not a good situation.
So what is Ghoulrun doing then? These couple of days off.
I think he would just make himself useful around the church or temple or whatever's in town.
Mm-hmm.
If he's able to do that, yeah.
Yeah, they allow people to sort of volunteer here and there. You're not technically allowed to like use your spells as part of the church, But if people kind of wander up to you and ask you for assistance, you are allowed to give it to them, just not within the confines of the church itself. And you have to kind of like be very clear, like, I am not, it is, this is me choosing to help you. This is not affiliated in any way with the temple or anything of that sort.
Right. So how exactly, I was wondering that, like, I'm not really, like, I'm not sanctioned to be a cleric, but the gods have given me spells, so aren't I?
No, so,
weird, like...
so what normally happens, because of your kind of unique upbringing, you missed out on what would traditionally happen. Usually at a very young age, like, the abilities start to kind of manifest in a cleric. That sort of, the touch of your deity kind of starts to appear, and that starts manifesting kind of in the way of like having a few little cantrips you can cast now and again. So maybe like you'll walk by something and you'll like cause it to light up, or you might happen to like help somebody who's not feeling good just by kind of being around them and giving them a soft touch to make them feel comfortable, and like everything kind of gets better for them going forward. But as somebody who kind of was in the situation you were in, where you were kind of like a late adoptee into the church, like there wasn't really the normal program that would happen. So you didn't go to like, you didn't have like the direct, starting young age kind of study into the clergy. And so everything you've kind of learned has only been in probably the last few years, as you've kind of been integrated in the town. It's been a bit more complicated because you're in no way near native, right? You're quite a ways removed from the regular like procedures of the temples of the area. So that's left you at kind of a disadvantage in a lot of ways. But you have still like been able to eventually get the right training, and a lot of this is much different because it's not from like, when was your adoption? When were you kind of like accepted into society?
I don't know. I guess you'd be. What do you mean accepted? Like, I mean, I guess he was found when he was fairly young, but not like not like a baby, probably.
Right. He had some understanding, but his primary language would likely have been Dwarven, right? So he's somebody who's probably like in the young age of a dwarf, which is still many, many years in. But then he gradually has to be taught Common, and Common is very clearly not his first language. So educating him is a little more difficult. You have kind of that Dwarven stubbornness that kicks in and makes it very difficult for you to kind of like, something about like the whole methodology of the system just doesn't kind of sit right as you're growing up. And then eventually it kind of like works its way there. But normally by about that point, instead of being indoctrinated into a city, you would already be starting like your studies in the magic that's starting to manifest itself. Whereas it was kind of caught late. And so now like you're a few steps behind the typical person in this sort of circumstance. So you want really desperately to be a part of the church, but your powers are manifesting greater than they normally would at this point in your life.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
So the church allows you to do what they can allow you to do, but obviously with some, restriction. And they, of course, are not large fans of the way that the system works with regard to being able to help people. But they understand that this is part of what keeps the town going, so they're not gonna shake things up unless something else kind of brings about that shakeup. What is Ghoulron's alignment, by the way?
Good question.
I forgot.
I have chaotic good here, but I don't know how I feel about that. Is he chaotic good?
Well, I mean, would you feel opposed to the idea of not needing to have some sort of license and other things in order to practice your spells?
Needing what?
Needing a license and like to be sanctioned in order to practice your spells, or would you believe that like you should freely be able to help people when they need it?
I should be able to freely help people when they need it.
Yeah.
100%.
So to you, like, then it sounds like these rules would kind of just get in the way of doing the things that need to be done. Like you might have a sort of moral code, but to you, like some of the logistics of this system just don't sort of add up to what you feel like they should.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I was gonna say lawful good, but if that meant like, oh, he thinks that he doesn't want to cast spells because it's against the rules, no way.
Yeah. You would have to, with the mentality that you're at right now, you'd probably lean towards either neutral good or chaotic good. And chaotic good is more so like it's about the individual. Like you feel like being able to do the right thing should not be restricted by a series of like rules and laws, and that the laws get in the way of, you being able to do the things that you need to do to help people.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So the three of you will eventually meet back up in the Ministry of Magic. You'll probably not initially run into each other when you first get back for your new next day of work. But at lunch, you'll be able to kind of reconvene with each other, finding a table and noticing you're absent one person.
Hey guys, does anyone know where Baru is?
No idea.
No, I don't know.
After a little while, I've actually put the name in the wrong place, and I don't know if I even have it now. Dope.
Oh yeah, you put it in CT.
Yeah, okay, I did put it there. So, after a little while over your lunch, Maha is making her normal rounds, and she wanders up to your table. I must apologize. I meant to speak to each of you this morning, and unfortunately, I was having a bit of trouble getting around to speaking to you. It's been a very busy day. Perhaps after lunch, if you could come see me in my office, I'd like to discuss the disappearance of your friend.
Disappearance? He's missing?
We can discuss more in my office. Let's just keep this at a low level, please.
Okay.
Thank
Wait,
you.
out of character, we're not like super good friends with everyone yet, right? We literally just met like...
You've known each other for a little while. It's been like maybe
Okay.
maybe a month or so, maybe a little less than that.
But it's not like a long friend who I'm like, oh my god, he's missing. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess.
But, I mean, we are lunch buddies.
Yep. Yeah, you guys have had lunch almost like since you started in the place together. So Maha takes her leave and heads over to a couple other tables, assigning them, cases or whatnot.
Brianna will kind of pick at her food, kind of just like turning it around with her fork and just be...
That's a wee bit concerning.
I don't feel so hungry anymore. I hope everything's okay with Bar.
Oh, I'm sure he's fine. He was half orc, right?
Mm-hmm.
Half orcs are strong. I'm sure he can take care of himself.
Brianna, eat your food. Starving yourself won't help any.
Would you say that Elizabeth would just like take my fork and like start trying to force feed?
Just shovel it in your mouth.
What are you, her mother? Eat your food. Stop playing with it.
She's too small and skinny. She needs to eat.
Well,
Her
especially
grandmother.
after a few of you had a bit of a bout of illness over that period as well. Elizabeth, you were kind of bedridden that whole time. And Gulran, you were very fortunate that the temple was willing to help you with your problems. And thankfully, Brianna was not bothered at all.
not physically. The thought of
Dwarves
what
are
we were
sturdy.
wading through was icky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess Brianna will like kind of try and force herself to eat a little bit just because Elizabeth, was telling her to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching you. Eat your food.
All right, so the three of you can, unless you have something else to talk about, the three of you can kind of wrap up lunch
No, I don't think so.
and make your way to Maha's office. A very well-organized and clean office she keeps, with her little name on the door. Her full name I have listed in the Discord. It is Maha Devadas,
Uh-huh.
and it has her little title underneath it. And there are a couple of seats just outside of the door.
Brianna
guess
will
we sit on the
sit in
seat,
one of
yeah.
the seats. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, I don't say wait, I knock on the door.
I've punished a party for not knocking on a door before. That was a long bit of sitting. So yeah,
I go to sit in the knock.
you knock at the door and you hear, "Come in."
No, we come in.
The three of you enter.
Brianna's feeling nervous, like she's been summoned to the principal's office a little bit.
More like when your parents caught you playing music out in the fields.
Yes, very much so.
Once the three of you enter, she instructs one of you to close the door behind you.
We do so.
Yeah, I was gonna say Brianna gets the door.
I don't know exactly how to tell you this, but I believe some of you may have come down with an illness while you were dealing with things over your with regard to the missing children case. Was that correct?
Yep.
Not all of us are hearty like a dwarf.
I was okay, but is something wrong? Is Baru sick?
Baru didn't make it.
What? With the resources of the temple, we couldn't save him or anything? Why was I not summoned? I have some spells that could have helped him.
Baru was in a very odd circumstance when he was brought to us. He was screaming something about his wife being murdered while he was ill, and he went a little bit crazy. We were doing what we could to try to figure out what was wrong, but all of our clerics were at a loss for what his illness was. It seemed as if every time they would figure out one thing that it could be, it was like it would change into something else. We thought maybe he was cursed, and we tried to alleviate that, but then other things kept coming up. It was magic unlike anything we've ever seen before. Like, not only was it modifying his mind, but also his very existence. By the time we thought we had a finger on it, he wasn't doing very well. His speech had deteriorated significantly. His breathing was low and slow. He passed comfortably, quietly.
Well, at least there's that, I guess.
It marks the first time I've lost anyone.
That wretched woman.
Brianna's crying, and she's just muttering to herself. She's saying, "He was always so nice to me. How can he be gone?"
Unfortunately, in life, sometimes things don't end the way you expect them to.
I awkwardly pat Brianna on the back.
What about that mage? Have you been keeping an eye on him? He was inflicted with the same type of magic and was showing signs of being odd. I instructed people to watch him. Where's that being done?
Yes, he's been given some time off.
Time off. I think he should be watched. No.
And he's had a cleric at his side the entire time.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Level head, Gul'ran. Level head. I know this is a bit hard to take on. If you'd like, we can offer you a little bit more time to grieve.
Please no. I would like to work. Please no.
Yeah, I think the best thing is to take our minds off it with solving more issues. I think that's what we would have wanted.
Brianna just nods. She's crying. She can't really say anything, but she just kind of says, I'd rather work with them.
Fair enough. We tend to find that after situations like this, people find it easier to kind of move on. Keep their mind busy. None of you have been plagued by any thoughts of partners you never had or lives you never experienced, have you?
I mean, I just have to wonder if the wife he was referring to, the person in the sewer, she made him think that she was his wife. I mean, maybe that's part of it. I haven't had anything like that myself.
Perhaps. Well, I do wish we could have more answers for you and for us.
Maha, if we do start to have weird thoughts, is there anyone we can talk to?
We have in-house someone who is willing to discuss any issues that might be plaguing your mind. There are a number of things they can do, starting with just talking and going as far as potentially trying to eliminate bad memories you might feel like you have. Although we do often warn against that. Making holes in your mind can sometimes lead to other things trying to fill them.
Brianna nods. She says, "Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you."
You're welcome. In the meantime, I have we prefer to send people in groups of at least 4. So we have someone who can assist you in the next file we have here. And she reaches down and she picks up another folder, opens it up, and turns it and sets it down on the desk in front of you. There was a home that was robbed recently. Now, normally, this would be a case for the Knights. However, in this particular case, there was reported to be a good amount of residue of illusion and some transmutation in the area at the time. And we're curious if maybe a better magical eye could get some details. It's about that time as well that we expect there to be a bit of a rise in theft. She flips through a couple of sheets and gestures to a document that discusses a group called the I forget. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting the name. They have a name, and if I can recall it, I said it, and then I never got it written down. It is a group of magically. It is a group of thieves that utilize magic for greater personal benefit by liberating valuables from other people. Usually around this time, they have their recruitment, looking for people who are particularly skilled and pull off greater heists. So we find during this time, it takes a little bit more vigilance. The ministry is near flooded with cases like this. And we think you'll be good for this assignment. And the person that we have joining with you is rather skilled at knowing about quite a wide variety of things, and may be of great use to you. You may find that they have some similarities to your previous companion, but he will be visually quite a bit different. I've asked him to come by my office around this time. However, I've noticed he's not one for punctuality. So perhaps if the three of you could just hang tight for a moment, have a seat here in my office, we can talk about a few other little things, how things are going in your lives, and hopefully he'll arrive soon.
Brianna nods and she sits down in a chair.
All right, and let's take our first break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.